Brentford and West Ham United. It's a huge defeat this for West Ham. They slip into the bottom three, changing places with Spurs. But was it as bad as it seemed, losing 3-0 to Brentford at the weekend? Well, this tells a different story. So Brentford went 2-0 up after 54 minutes. Up to that point, yes, they had a goal on the board, but West Ham had more shots. Crucially, they hit the woodwork 3 times. Brentford hadn't done that, despite the fact they had gone in front. They'd had twice as many touches in the opposition box, more passes in the final third, and 5 corners to 0. So are you saying, Jamie, because you were really interested in what these numbers were before 2-0, that actually West Ham shouldn't be as downhearted about the result because the performance was not so bad?
Yeah, you've got to think almost a little bit of positivity going forward. I watched this game on Saturday night on Game of the Day, watched the full game. And when you see the result before and you think, wow, that's a bad one. But then I watched the game, there was absolutely nothing in it. It was a really good game. It was end-to-end. There was chances at both ends. And then West Ham got a bit ragged at 2-0. They went to a back 3, bringing subs on, trying to get back into the game. But that was the picture of the game. There wasn't a lot in it. And they're probably unfortunate not to take the lead early on when the game was at 0-0. That's the first thing that we're going to look at. So as I said, it was a really good game. Enjoyed watching it. Obviously, I knew I was going to do the analysis on tonight. But Pablo's come in, him and Castellanos on the other side, do a great job for the team defensively. And he hasn't scored a goal yet, and he's just lacking confidence. Didn't really look like he had belief to go on and score there. And that could have put them 1-0 in front. But I just want to highlight the work they do for this team defensively. They don't stop as a front two. Really work, stopping this ball coming in here. But when you're playing against a 4-4-2 team defensively, you try and build up with a back 3. So they're trying to use the goalkeeper here, Brentford. So we're going to now look at the analysis for Brentford, but just look at the work of this front 2 here. So that's what they're giving to the team. Not a lot of goals. Castellanos actually got 4, but as I said, it's what they give the team off the ball. And look how much they're struggling here to play out. Even though they've got the extra man with the goalkeeper, they just constantly shift across. And that's what they've given this team since they've come in. And as we know, and we've said on this show before, they're getting a lot more goals and creativity from Somerville and Bowen, but they put a real shift in these lads and they can't actually get through them here. So then what we're going to see is how they do eventually do it. So forget the goalkeeper now because they're higher up the pitch, Brentford. So the plan was, we know this front 2 work hard, but we're going to drop a midfielder deeper in Jensen, and then the centre-back can come even wider. It's too far for him to get. He can't get there. So that's how Brentford set up tactically, and it really helped with this first goal. Because what happens then is Coyote and Lewis Potter on the far side, they become wing-backs because you've got a back 3. So they can go higher, the wide players go inside, and Lewis Potter crosses for Coyote to almost score, shall we say. So these are the little tactics of sort of Brentford in terms of coming up against this 4-4-2. It's a little bit of a theme of the night when Thierry's analysis is going to come later. And again, you see Collins, the centre-forward, can't get across, and then you've got your 1v1 here. Left-back v right winger, Keane Lewis Potter. We see the run here from Coyote. And yes, we know it's an own goal, but listen, he's inches away from scoring a goal. But I now want to look at West Ham again. And Juve, as a player we've highlighted these last few weeks, gets forward well, gets crosses in, but defensively it was all over the place at the weekend, and it's really costing. You have to make a challenge there. That's not acceptable. Diaz, trying to make a challenge as much as he can. He doesn't jump for the header. Now, I know there was a little bit of frustration, I think, from West Ham saying maybe there was a foul in there, but I don't see that at all, no. I mean, they're both going for the ball. But Juve, as we said, he just puts that ball in the box. This is at 1-0. Castellanos again. As I said, he's got a few goals since he comes in. Another chance hits the woodwork. So when I'm talking about West Ham not getting too downhearted, I know it'll be difficult because of Spurs' result as well, but very unfortunate here. Yes, it's offside, but not like a big offside. We're talking inches. So really close again to getting on the score sheet, getting it back to 1-1. Another situation here where they hit the woodwork. You think of Dan Burn at the weekend for Newcastle. That finds the far corner. So, yes, they're now in a situation where, as I said, they're going to need favours from other teams, but the performance was still there in a lot of ways. And this is the goal that, as I said, finished them. Juve here. Can he spring? Can he run out here? Can he get out quicker, more aggressive? It's not just what's at stake. It's just being a professional footballer. And that challenge is just, you can't make challenges like this at this crucial time. And any mistake and the pressure for any defender, whether you're West Ham, Tottenham, teams down there, that's the pressure you're under. If you make a big mistake and cost your team, that's when the fingers will really be pointed. But that's when the game then goes away from West Ham. And yes, it becomes ragged. But we're talking about a team, I think, only last week we were saying, almost level with Arsenal in terms of the form guide. They've gone on a brilliant run. They've gone to a tough place away from home. Brentford, really top team. We can see that from where they are in the league. And for an hour, they had a really good performance, got a little bit ragged. They've just got to focus, not get too sort of emotional about it. And remember, that wasn't a bad performance.
It sounds like he's doing the team talk for West Ham before they play Arsenal.
There you go, Neil.
Don't do that, please.
Do you think that West Ham team can cause Arsenal problems?
Yes, it depends on what's going to happen during the week. You're playing for survival. It's going to be very difficult to play against a team like West Ham next week. But again, what's going to happen with Arsenal in the Champions League? Are you coming on the high and celebrating a final or missing a final? Either way, that won't be an easy game.
How do you see it?
Listen, I expect Arsenal to win, of course, but I was at this game a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I think it was. I think it finished 2-2.
And Saka's penalty.
Did Arsenal go... I think Arsenal may have gone 2-0 up. But what I'm saying is...
They've certainly dropped points in the title race.
I remember the atmosphere there. I'm thinking, you know, a London derby, a lot at stake. I mean, in some ways, probably Arsenal might be thinking, I wish West Ham would have won. It's almost desperation right now, I think, in that game. The atmosphere will be fantastic. It'll be a great game to watch. And I think most Arsenal fans, a bit like you, Thierry, that's the one game they're looking at that really worries and scares them.
Against Rangers. Right, let's get back to the Premier League and back to the analysis. Remember, Spurs hadn't won a game in 2026 until last week, and now they've won back-to-back games in the Premier League. 7 points from the last 3, more than they'd managed in all of the last 14. And Thierry, when Roberto De Zerbi arrived, he talked about how important it was for this Spurs team to get really organised without the ball. But have they also done the same thing with the ball that we saw against Aston Villa?
It did. We saw how they were sound off the ball, but they were also sound on the ball. I mean, Jamie just showed a team that had to beat a flat team in a 4-4-2, with that system. And now you're going to see how Tottenham stopped Villa, putting them under pressure when they won the ball. You're going to see Palhinha at the top, making it, like you said, Jamie, a back three with one player here. And you're going to see Morgan Rogers doesn't know what he needs to do because you have a player behind him and a player on the line. He's kind of like, okay, if I go, you guys are playing behind me. He's asking his team to push and put pressure. I watched that game and the Villa fans were like, oh, we got to go, we got to push. But how are we going to push? Who is taking Palhinha? Who is going on Palhinha? Udogie is going to go higher. You're going to see, but ball goes to Bentancur again. So now he went. This time he's like, oh, I'm not going. Okay, you're not going? We'll switch it. We switch it. Palhinha had all the time in the world, and that's by design. Jamie, you talked about, obviously, Brentford doing it while they were playing the game. That's right from the start. You have that diamond. You make sure that you neutralize the two centre forward, and as you explained, you can go on Palhinha. Now he's going to go, okay, I waited, now we're going to go. Okay, Pedro Porro goes, attracts Madsen. Madsen plays Colomwani. Pedro Porro plays Colomwani. Now, you're free once again. And that was the theme of the game. Every single time Villa couldn't step, and I know people will say 7 changes and whatnot, they couldn't put pressure. And that was well drilled by De Zerbi.
So this was a conversation when he arrived that people were... I mean, there wasn't a lot of positivity, was there? But could actually this be a really inspired appointment, do you think?
Yes, the way they played, the way they were running, it seemed like they knew everything about everything in the game, on and off the ball. Yuri Tillemans had a poor game, losing balls, and I'm not having a go at Yuri, but he just couldn't get the ball, he couldn't turn. Carragher looked like he was possessed, and that's what you need to see from a team that might go down or not.
I think can I just make a little point? It's really interesting. Because of the way the game is now, and there's a lot more football playing, there's a lot more organisation with the ball. When you think of someone like De Zerbi and you think the football he plays, you automatically think that's not a manager you want for sort of down the bottom. You want to see another type of manager who's really defensive and organised. And I'm not saying that's wrong. My point being now, if you're a manager, you've got to have a plan with the ball. It's not all about without the ball and getting back and, you know, being compact and pressing. It's what you do with the ball. That's what players now at this level expect.
And it's also scoring goals in these crunch games as well. I think we were debating last week whether they would have the creativity, the firepower to get more than one, which they did against Aston Villa. And we've seen it too with Nottingham Forest, who scored 4 against Burnley, 5 against Sunderland, and they've gone and scored 3 at Stamford Bridge this afternoon. And now it looks like, Jamie, that goal scoring has got them clear of these relegation fears.
Well, listen, they did brilliant to be 2-0 up with the team they put out, but they brought the cavalry on half-time. And in Elliot Anderson and Morgan Gibbs-White, very, very special players who, one is definitely going to the World Cup, and I think Morgan Gibbs-White should be going as well. And hopefully he's not too bad having to come off.
He took a bit of a knock today.
Yeah, he took a knock, but the pace, the goals, that pass, he knows there's a certain pace he has to put on that. He puts it on perfectly. Any harder it goes past him, if he underhits it, the defender takes it out the way, and you see how tight it was. Obviously went to VAR, but as we know, we got the technology now to fix that, and that's why I always felt they would be okay, because they had those type of players. I worried about Tottenham, but at this moment now they've put themselves ahead of West Ham and in a great position.
So I'm really confused now, because we've been really positive about Nottingham Forest. It looks like they're safe. Spurs have had a complete turnaround. Jamie thinks that West Ham are one of the best teams that we've ever seen. I'm paraphrasing.
I'm just doing
I'm paraphrasing. So let's sort this out then. I feel like we're down to 2, are we, Thierry, now?
Yes, indeed.
So how do you see it from here?
Well, can I say that Tottenham might stay up? I don't know.
You can, if that's what you believe.
I don't know if I can say that, but no. For West Ham, for me, it would be against playing against Arsenal. Are you going to do something or not? And then the way Tottenham are at home, you never know. But one thing is very important is the De Zerbi factor. You have to. It looks like they believe in him. They know exactly what they need to do. So the way they play that Villa look like, for me, they might get a little. They might get the edge.
And we need to point out that because of the goal difference, Jamie, West Ham effectively have to be 2 points better than Spurs in these final 3 games. Come on then, let's have your verdict on it.
I mean, listen. Spurs have done something out of the ordinary, as in winning away at Aston Villa. It was always going to be a tough game. We know they changed players, I get that. But West Ham are going to have to do the same. But when I look at it, West Ham, and I know it's very difficult and easy to say, they've just got to try and match that result. Now, are they going to beat Arsenal? I find that very difficult to believe. So they've almost got to hope that Leeds could go there and get a point. Could they get a point at home to Arsenal? Yes. If they match Tottenham's result, I then go to here. Both tough games. But you can imagine the motivation. I know Chelsea were awful today, but you can imagine the motivation inside that club and their supporters wanting to send Tottenham down. You can imagine that. Then you look at those 2 fixtures and you think, could we get a better result than Chelsea in that setup? Because that would be a tough game away at Chelsea for Tottenham. That's the only thing I can think in terms of West Ham. But this situation here gives Tottenham a great opportunity to sort of almost put it to bed.
And then it just comes down to a final day shootout,
That's what West Ham have got to hope, that they can get it to the last day.
And who knows what can happen then when nerves take over. You'll see all those games on that final Sunday of the season with us on Sky Sports. It's not all over yet at Tynecastle.
Bottom of the table, Tim Sherwood, Owen Hargreaves in the studio. Go on, Tim. Up to where? Relegation scrap.
Oh, I think Nottingham Forest. Palace fine. But that result for Tottenham has dragged Forest well into it. And obviously it's a magnificent result because they leapfrog West Ham, 3 games left. So
how big to have survival in their hands now?
That's crucial. It's crucial at any stage. But back-to-back wins at this stage of the season against Wolves and again tonight against Aston Villa, where no one expected them to win. I always think when you're in the relegation zone, you need to find a result where everyone least expects you to win. And he's managed to do that. You know, he goes to Villa Park. No one expected him to win. I think sometimes you get lucky where the games come around. This game's been wedged in between the Europa League semi-final. They lost the first leg. That second leg comes up. You saw the changes, what Unai Emery made to his side. And I think Tottenham capitalised on that, but take nothing away from them. I think out of possession, in possession, the game plan was absolutely spot on from De Zerbi tonight.
What changes has he made, Owen? What tweaks, what impact has he had?
Well, that's to defend better, first of all. And, you know, and they've been really effective from set pieces. You know, the first win against Wolves was a set piece. Today, the goals come from set pieces, simplify the game. Coaches are getting too upset with making the game about them and not about actually winning games of football. And I think when you're struggling, confidence is low, you've got to find a way to simplify it. And I thought De Zerbi, even though he's a brilliant coach tactic, we don't have time for that. That's next year. You've got to survive and stay in the division. And I thought he did that. He simplified things. They played forward quicker, got it into the channels. Second balls got crosses in. And that's enough to win you games of football. Yeah. When you keep playing back to the goalkeeper and play silly passes into midfield, and you lose confidence, that's a recipe for disaster. And I think De Zerbi's he's simplified it. He's missing all the creativity in Kulusevski and Madison and Kudus. Get the ball wide and we cross it and we win second balls and we head it. And you know what? It might be enough to stay in the Premier League.
In a funny way, Will, I just think that and I know it's sad for Xavi Simons to pick up the injury and Dominic Solanke. It was a blessing in disguise. He hasn't been played. He played in his first game against Sunderland, Richarlison. Then he's left him out for the next two. He puts him back in by default today. He scored 9 goals for today. He scores his 10th this evening. He scored for Everton in a similar situation when they were struggling at the bottom of the Premier League, and he kept them in the league with his desire and his goals and his attitude. He's a warrior, the kid. You need him in your team. And he didn't want to play him because he was playing other players in front. He stumbled across it tonight. He's found a way to put him in the team, and he's played to his strengths. He's got the ball forward early to him. He's got the ball in wide positions. They delivered the ball into the box, and it's helping out Conor Gallagher as well because he's there for the second balls. Conor Gallagher needed to step up. We're still waiting for Kolo Muani to step up. You know, and when he does, hopefully, he does that in the next game. But it's incredible. Their away form is incredible. It's third best in the league, is that correct? And their home form is disastrous. They play at home to Leeds next. They need to win this game. So not get too carried away. Brilliant. 2 back-to-back wins. They need to beat Leeds in the next home game.
Was this effort, this intensity, Owen, here under Thomas Frank, under Igor Tudor, what we saw today at Villa Park?
Do you know, people talk too much about tactics and formations and all these things. Football in the end is about you have to compete, you have to be aggressive. And I thought Tottenham were so uncertain from the beginning of the season. But again, you're playing a team like Aston Villa who want to play out. Go and press them. Dreadful ball from Emi Martinez. Turnover, boom, Charleston. That is right at the start of the game, Will. You know, and again, because teams are always going to try and play. Go and press them. At times I've seen Tottenham sit in and just be so passive, be so easy to play against. Turn the ball over. That's when you've got Paulinho and Bentancur and Gallagher in there. What are they good at? Pressing, being aggressive. And I thought they did a really good job of taking Aston Villa out their comfort zone, especially missing some of their best players. You know, Tim made a really good point. They're resting people for the game on Thursday, which is understandable. It's a big game. But Paulinho, these guys, look at what it means to these guys. You know, he leads the Premier League in terms of tackles whenever he plays. And Pedro Porro is another good player, Tim. And they were just more aggressive, and that's why they won this game.
Yeah, more structure to their game, and it wasn't sophisticated. It was about grit and determination, playing for the badge on the shirt. Look at that reaction, Pedro Porro. You know, he's a very good player when he goes forward into areas and he delivers with his right foot. He stays where he is now a little bit more. And Doggy on the other side, Danso and Mickey van der Ven. No longer you seeing the mazes from Mickey van der Ven running up the full length of the field for his own benefit, just to showcase himself. The manager said to him, "Don't have to do that, Mickey. You're capable enough. You've got all the attributes to be a top defender. Just do your job and be a partnership with Danso alongside of you." And them two were excellent today.
And there it is, Tim. You mentioned it. You know, the third best away record in the Premier League this season, which will surprise a lot of people watching this. It certainly surprised you two. Look, only Arsenal and Manchester City ahead of them, and the fact that they actually only have one away game left, they'd probably want it the other way around, wouldn't they? It's a trip to Stamford Bridge.
But the reason that's so interesting is the fact they've had a dreadful season, they're still third, but their home form is 19th. It's literally Jekyll and Hyde. And
that has to change for them to stay in the league.
Yeah, and Tim makes a great point. They have to beat Leeds. That is huge. But obviously the fans, they've had such a difficult season and they're behind the boys now. And I think they're behind the boys because they can see they have something which they can believe in. I don't think they believed in Thomas Frank's team, did they? Or Tudor's. I think now they're thinking, right, this is our team. We got it back. We're fighting for the shirt and we've got to find a way to hang in there to the end.
And he could be so important for Richarlison, couldn't he? You know, he's fallen into the team because of Solanke's injury. Double figures, now 10 Premier League goals. But you've said to him, you want to see warriors in there. And you put Paulinho and Richarlison in there today, and they've led right from the front.
Absolutely. You need players you can count on who are willing to put the graft in and do the ugly stuff in the game. And both of them are. And they get their rewards from it. You know, Paulinho just feeds his medicine every time he makes a tackle. He just feeds off it, his confidence. And Richarlison knows that he can be an absolute nuisance. He's a pest to any defenders. When they come off that pitch, they know they've been in the game. He's not the silkiest of players. He's not the smoothest in his movement. but he's a scruffy finisher and he puts himself in a position to score goals, but he needs the service. If you're going to have him up there, you need to put the ball in wide areas, you need to cross it, and you can't go in isolation. It's too easy to mark. But if you start filling out the box like they did today, he will find little gaps to score goals, and that's exactly what he did today. He has to play. He limped off. We're not sure what that was, and hopefully it's not too bad for him, because if he was to lose Richarlison at this stage, I don't know what the option is. Kolo Muani, who we talked about, who's not turned up at the moment, I wouldn't want to rely on him too much.
When we look at the running, I mean, whose shoes do you want to be in here? I mean, the obvious answer is to say, the team out of the bottom three, and there are two of them on that list with Nottingham Forest. But by the way, Nottingham Forest, if they are to get past Aston Villa in that Europa League semi-final and get to the final, that would be played between the games at Old Trafford and the Vitality Stadium, so between Manchester United and Bournemouth. Leeds, Chelsea, Everton for Tottenham. And as for West Ham, their next game at home to the league leaders Arsenal.
Well, Vitor Pereira done an incredible job since he's gone in it for us and galvanised that group. But they have the hardest games of anyone.
Yeah,
that is without question. Chelsea away, Newcastle home, United away, and then Bournemouth. Really, really tough. Spurs have the easiest fixtures by far, and I think that win today puts them in such an incredible position. But obviously, even West Ham, you look at the games. Tim made a good point. You need a win nobody believes you can get. West Ham need one of those. Obviously between Arsenal, Newcastle and Leeds, they're in a really difficult position. But I think now Spurs, with that win, they put themselves in a position to go and stay in this division again.
After the break then, on the Weekend Wrap, we will focus on the Premier League.
Welcome back to Sky Sports Fan Club. Right, we promised a Spurs fan for you, and Chris Cowlin is standing by after that brilliant victory yesterday, which took them out of the relegation zone. Just a pleasure to talk to you, and you're probably, there he is. Look at that big smile on his face. I don't think I've seen that for quite a while. Things are looking a lot rosier, aren't they, this morning? How big a result could that be come the end of the season?
Huge. Good morning to you, by the way. Absolutely huge result. And the fans last night at Villa Park were absolutely sensational, as was the team. Roberto De Zerbi really enjoyed that moment at the end with the fans. And, this is what we need. But I want to be smiling here in 3 weeks' time. That's what it's all about, so we can be happy today. But, like Tim said earlier, we've got to go again against Leeds, against Chelsea, against Everton. So we've got to keep picking up points. I think the result certainly drags Nottingham Forest back into this mess. They've got a huge game today. Of course, West Ham will be worried about that performance last night against Villa. But, Spurs, every single player put a shift in last night, and every single player delivered. And this is exactly what we've been asking, us Spurs fans, that, in this relegation run-in, every single player has got to play a part, and they certainly did that.
Chris, what about that stat I read out there? Third in the league away from home. That's just incredible. Now, the worry is there's 2 home games to come and 1 away to the bogey team, Chelsea. We've got to be optimistic after that performance yesterday, but we've got to be cautious, haven't we, mate?
Absolutely, Tim. But what I would say is that, I've been on here talking to you when Thomas Frank was the manager, Igor Tudor was the manager, and it feels very, very different under Roberto De Zerbi. That performance against Brighton was probably one of the best at home this season. We should have won that game. Of course, they got a last-minute equaliser. But since Roberto De Zerbi has come in, he wants us all to be positive, and he's telling these players, he's instilled belief and confidence into some of these players. And you can tell already that he is getting the best out of some of these players so early on, at Spurs. So I'm excited, with Roberto De Zerbi in charge. I'm looking forward to next season. Hopefully we will be a Premier League team. But, what we produced last night, I know everyone's going on about the Villa team. They still had a World Cup winner in goal. I don't know what people are moaning about. Spurs got the job done, and this should all be about how Tottenham played last night. And as I said, West Ham will be very worried about that performance, not just the result, the performance.
Yeah, I mean, De Zerbi's he's getting a tune out of the same players, really, isn't he? And he's got the same injury problems that Thomas Frank and Igor Tudor had. Yeah. So does yesterday show a little bit of what might have been this season?
Well, of course, that 44-day stint under Igor Tudor, he came in and he just said how dreadful everything was. Defensively we were poor, in midfield we were poor, in attack we were poor. And De Zerbi hasn't moaned at all
and
about
in the dugout.
Injuries. Exactly. And, he's been great. And, the fans were singing his name for the first time last night. And like I said, the moment at Villa Park, and the fans really enjoyed it. I got in at 3:20 this morning after recording our podcast, and I tell you what, I'm not moaning about tiredness, because that was an enjoyable night, and we haven't had a lot of those moments this season. And of course, back-to-back wins for the first time since the opening 2 Premier League games. So we know what a difficult season it has been, but we've just got to get over the line. And I agree with everything you said earlier, Tim. I can't disagree with anything there. It is about the next game. We've got to be focused. We can't get carried away, and it should all be about us. If we win the remaining 3 games, and De Zerbi, I love the positivity where he said we can win, 5 games in a row. Well, it's 2 down, 3 to go.
Chris, what I like about him, he's not talking about the injuries. You're not talking. He even dug out Bridgie, didn't he? And he's probably me. We're talking about the injury list.
Bridgie wasn't expecting that.
We have to highlight that. The injury list has been bad. There is mitigating circumstances. But I had an old manager, Kenny Dalglish, and if you were injured, you might as well not be alive. I mean, he wouldn't even bother about you. He would just forget about he ain't worried. He wouldn't waste his energy on players who can't help his team out. And that's exactly right. And I think De Zerbi's doing exactly the same. He's saying to Bridgie, stop crying. We're worried about the players who can play. I think it was a blessing in disguise, and I've said it before the game, that Richarlison's in the team now. Richarlison has been there and done it in this environment for Everton. And he scored some vital goals in the last 3 games of the 4 games of the season for him. He will do the same for Tottenham. He's got double figures in one of the worst Tottenham teams we've seen for a long time. Incredible. His attitude and desire and his goal-scoring prowess, for me, has to start.
Absolutely, Tim. Absolutely. I can't disagree with any of that. And, I felt like Colomani had a good game as well, given his standards and given the season that he's had. And Matisse Tell, he needs to step up, and he stepped up yesterday with an assist. So every single player, as I said, played their part. And this is exactly what you need in the remaining 3 games. But like you've also said, 2 games are at home. This form at home must, turn around, and we must, start winning there. But he hasn't complained about any of the injuries. Yes, we've had a lot of injuries this season. We had a lot of injuries last season under Ange Postecoglou. That definitely needs to be addressed and investigated properly in the summer. But De Zerbi, I love his positivity, and I love the fact that he said, look, we can look at this in the summer, but it is all about winning now and, getting back on the training pitch, and we go again.
Do you agree with me, Chris? Do you think the team mirror his fight?
Absolutely. Yeah. I love it. And I tell you what, I think it's very fair to say that the fan base was very down about things. And, De Zerbi coming out publicly and saying, look, we can't cry about this. We're not relegated. Let's all be together. And there was that real togetherness. It has been a really, really tough season. Yes, we've been OK on the road in Premier League games, but the home form has been absolutely abysmal. We've gone through multiple different managers. It's been a very, very tough season. So, I think we're all realistic people. We were all quite down about the situation. Spurs should never be in this position, Tim. That is the thing. That's not me being arrogant about it. We should have never, ever, allowed ourselves to be in this position. And if we are a Premier League team next season, vast improvements and vast good decisions need to be made in the summer.
We've run out of time, fortunately, Chris, but just in one word, are you staying up?
I hope so. I really do. I think it's going to be...
That was 3 words, but we'll take it anyway.
He's a quarterback. He's level. He's level-headed, this guy.
Thanks very much, Chris. Great to talk to you. Great to see you with a smile on your face finally as well.
Thank you. Cheers.